You are listening to the Enormocast.
So what do you approach in your approach shoes? El Cap, the Diamond, the Traps? How about Super Crack Buttress or the Mushroom Boulder in Waco? And what about your mailbox, your job, the local coffee shop? Have you ever approached something scary, awe-inspiring, or heartbreaking in your approach shoes? And what is your actual approach like? Do you stomp, dance, or electric slide your approaches? Or do you walk in beauty like the night of cloudless climbs and starry skies? Climbers do everything from wide cracks to wedding vows in their approach shoes. Not to mention hike, scramble, and lead those last few pitches in the dark. So why not get an approach shoe that can handle it all and look great doing it, like the TX4 from Sportiva? The mighty TX4 approach shoe sports a sticky sole, leather upper, bomber rand, and unbeatable build, as we'd expect from Sportiva. So whether you're bombing up some trail to paradise in the pre-dawn light or just kicking around town feeling the afterglow, why not approach everything with style in the TX4 from Sportiva? Check out the whole TX line at Sportiva.com or your favorite local shop. Was your neck hurt playing someone else's project? Does your partner get in way over his head even on the warm-ups? Does the phrase, "I'll just do this move one more time," make your eyeballs spin? Then let Belay Specs fight for you.
When my boyfriend started falling lower and lower on his project, Belay Specs saved my neck and got me a new boyfriend.
Belayer neck pain, also known as BNP, can interfere with work, play, family, and snapping your head around at the gym to check out those abs. And you have rights, which are being crushed every time your partner yells take. So if your neck has been injured in an epic belay session, go to belayspecs.com to see if you qualify for a pair of belay specs and to get what you deserve. Enter Enormocast at checkout for a discount. Belay Specs is not licensed to give legal advice to anyone. Results may vary by steepness. If Belay Specs cause you to trip, fall down, run into a door, nausea, dry mouth, you're probably too high to climb to begin with.
All right, we good? We done here? Does anybody want to get a beer?
We gotta get
Listen, where you playing in town? You playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a
big
house. We
place,
sold
that
it out.
side of town. That's a
Very
big
nice.
place. You sold it out.
20,000
seats.
We really should.
The hell are you doing? I couldn't sleep. I'm checking the ropes. There was a frayed end on your rope, and I'm cutting it out. Bad weather. No, later, anytime. Good time.
Today's show is brought to you by Black Diamond Equipment, with support from Maxim Ropes.
And the fine folks at La Sportiva. And don't forget our charter sponsor, Bonfire Coffee. Go to bonfirecoffee.com and enter Enormo at checkout for a discount on great coffee and to support the Enormocast.
And now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Gluce. It is October 30th, 2019, about 10:15 here in Colorado. Are we still in daylight savings, or does this daylight savings happen this weekend? When is the daylight saved? And what can I do with that saved daylight? Can I just bust it out sometime when we're about to get benighted and I'm like, don't worry about it, bro. I got all this daylight saved right here. We got another 6 hours to climb. Anyway, we're coming into the dark time in a few days. The dark time. When the ice climbers awaken. I know they're already creeping around, but when they really shake it off and start getting after it out there, the nights are long and the ice is brittle. Anyway, on today's show, I have comp climber, sport climber, boulderer, young man, Sean Bailey. And I've had this one in the hopper for quite some time. I'm not sure why. I got it back when I talked to Allison Vest and Claire Burfind. So quite a few months ago. A bit of a comp climber smorgasbord up there at the Black Diamond headquarters in Salt Lake City. But of the 4 interviews I did on that trip, this was the one where I just wasn't quite sure what I had. And maybe that's why I haven't pulled it back up and started editing. But I was pleasantly surprised. I don't think Sean knew who I was, what I was up to, but he ended up in a room with me and we sat down, and after a little while he warmed up. But I remember during the interview thinking that, man, I'm old, and do I really know how to talk to this kid? And I don't know if I sort of slide into giving advice or, kind of sounding confused maybe a little bit, but it is a pretty classic example of, someone reaching across a couple generations to talk to somebody, and every once in a while sounding a little bit fumbly. But at the same time, I don't think Sean had been asked to talk this much about his motivations, about his attitudes towards climbing, towards comp climbing. And after a little while, we started to open up and get into something deeper, which was pretty cool. I hope it doesn't come across as like some old man and a kid, but maybe meeting of the minds somewhere in the middle. One interesting thing that came up, and it comes up early in the conversation, was Sean's ambivalence towards social media, which I thought was really interesting because there's sort of a myth at this point that social media is this real strong realm of the young. But I think, some of those myths are starting to be shattered. And it's only 9 years old, Instagram, for example. And some of these younger people, these kids, are already kind of over it, kind of over this sharing thing. I'm kind of pleased about that, actually, because I think every day the whole milieu of social media starts to become a little bit more sinister, poking holes in the fabric of our society that I think we're going to see a lot of fallout from. And of course, Facebook, I don't know. It's a necessary thing for the promotion of like this podcast. I do have some fun with social media, but I tell you, every once in a while, I just want to clear it all out and disappear. But of course, that's how I communicate with you guys a lot of times, is at the Facebook page. So I'm not quite ready yet, but man, the news isn't good about social media. Anyway, with that said, I don't have much else to talk about today, so why don't we just get to an interview, an old guy interviewing a young guy, and let's hear from Sean Bailey. When you think about it, is there another gear company so dedicated to outfitting climbers from head to toe as Black Diamond? They've got lightweight modern helmets and headlamps for your pointy head, high-performance apparel to wrap that sweet climber bod you've been cultivating, all the way down to their line of advanced climbing shoes for those tender piggies. They've got crash pads for the pad sniffers, the best protection money can buy for the trad dads, ice tools for the masochists. Pitons, haul bags, portal ledges, backpacks, draws, beaners, harnesses, tents, probes, skis, poles, and even the signature Enormocast rhinestone-studded unisex microfleece G-string. Well, no, that doesn't exist yet, despite me stuffing the suggestion box every chance I get. So next time you're shopping for, well, nearly anything a climber could want, honor the generations of weary Black Diamond engineers poring over AutoCAD in their cubicles when they'd much rather be climbing. And go to blackdiamondequipment.com or your favorite local shop to see the fruits of their dedicated labor. And remember, Black Diamond is a proud sponsor of the Enormocast. So, I have this running joke that I do like 5 minutes of research before I start talking to somebody. And that is sort of true because a lot of times I want the conversation to be, a little bit of a discovery where I'm actually learning about you as well. But in your case, the 5 minutes was actually 3 minutes too much in terms of kind of what I found on the internet about you. You're sort of you've got these things that are really well known, but it was kind of a mystery. So is that something that you're working on, or as a professional climber, or is it something that you like?
I'd say a little bit of both. I think, as a career move, it's definitely something I should be working on. But, as an individual, I kind of like it that way. Like, I've always kind of kept a smaller circle a lot of the time and, kind of don't keep to myself, but keep to my circle. So spreading things out to a bunch of people is like always a little unnatural for me.
Right. It's like almost a little old school. As a professional athlete, which you are now, it's kind of required. But I've met plenty of climbers in particular that kind of push back on this idea, or at least are a little bit ambivalent between the two images of like, well, I really have to produce this content versus like what my inner feelings are about it. Is that like, you just said that, like, you're going to have to work on it. Is it going to be a hard conflict for you?
It's already starting to be, I think. I think there's like two ways that are okay for me. Like the one is, creating content that feels like super authentic, and then I'm a little more accepting of it. And then the other way is to like just really not care about what I put out, and to just be like so detached from it that, I could say a load of bullshit and I know that I don't really believe in it, but it's almost like irony or like a joke or something in a sense. And so I'm okay like putting it out there, but definitely sometimes I'll post something on Instagram and it's just like, I don't know, words.
Right. Yeah. So, it's something that you're not that old. I mean, you're 21, 22?
22, 23 in May.
Okay. So, yeah.
It's already May, though. So.
When's your birthday?
Damn, 5 days.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. I thought you were going to be like, oh, it was yesterday. I forgot.
That wouldn't be that surprising, man.
Well, cool. I mean, we're here in this professional setting. So it's kind of is what struck me when I was looking at again, your online presence. So tell me a little bit about, if we do a big question here, this is kind of a big Enormocast question that we use to get into this stuff, is tell me a little bit about what kind of climber you are. And that can be a very logistical question. Well, I boulder, I do this. Or better is like, what ways do you think about climbing and how does it fit into your life?
Damn.
Yeah, big.
That's pretty heavy for like a second question.
We'll go for the, let's do it this way.
No, it's good. It's good.
Well, let's do it. If we do it this way, just talk about the nuts and bolts.
Okay.
Indoors, outdoors, bouldering, sport climbing. What are we looking at? And go back in your history a little bit.
Back in the history, I grew up mostly in the gym just because it was the most accessible for me. Lived in the city and it's easy to get to the gym, easy to train, easy to put the time in. But on the weekends, I'd either go compete or, I'd try to get outside, outdoors. I'd go to Smith Rock a lot, go to this local crag we have called Little Si a lot. And that was kind of my intro into it. Nowadays, it's about 50-50 split. I'll be, training for competitions and trying to compete as much as I can. And then on the flip side, trying to put as much time into going outside and, completing some other like outdoor goals. But I mean, I just like climbing at the end of the day. Like, right. I think I could get into like any style for the most part. Yeah.
Well, I just was talking with one of your teammates here at Black Diamond, Allison Best, and sort of theorized that like it's going to be more and more rare the really good comp climber that is splitting his or her time outside. And is that ever a conflict for you in terms of your goals in one or the other? Taking away from comp training to be outdoor climbing and vice versa?
For sure, yeah. Especially World Cup, because it's such a long season and you need to prepare for so long just to have the strength and the fitness to be successful. And technically, too, it's like such a different style of climbing nowadays that it's so far removed from the rock that, you need to invest a lot of energy just into practicing that aspect of it. So it's hard to divvy my time up because I like to be in the outdoors as much as I can. But, I'm looking at least like 3 months before the World Cup season that I need to be like pretty focused on plastic. And then, 3 months of the season already that's like 6 months gone. So
right.
It's tough for sure.
Yeah. Is it something that you got to go outside, or are you going to be able to manage to stay focused in the gym and stay stoked, do you think?
I'm very like passion driven for the most part.
Okay.
So I try to like go with the flow. Like this season I focused a little more on the outdoors, like even before the comps. And, my competition performances probably hurt for a little bit. But on the flip side, it was like at the time exactly what I wanted to be doing and what I was happiest doing. And I had a lot of outdoor success too. So It's just following like those waves, I think, for the most part, and just doing what you're psyched on.
Right. I mean, because you have to be in a good mental space either way.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the outdoor experience feeds you in a way that's probably positive in the end for indoor climbing in terms of psych.
Yeah.
Would you say
sure.
that? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's always, been one of those things that has been pretty core to my climbing experience ever since I was pretty young. So I've always tried to invest, but, I'm still kind of in that discovery process of figuring out how to invest as much energy as I want into the comps as well as climbing outside. So it's been a process. Like last year, I spent way too much time in the gym, and I got like totally neurotic about training, and it was like, you know, maybe not like the healthiest mindset. And then this year, I've almost like gone the opposite direction, where I've like spent so much time outside, and like it's been awesome, like sending projects, like it's been cool, but definitely like for comp fitness, it could be nice to have like a few more hours in the gym.
But was it successful last year? Did you overtrain?
Yeah, no, I totally overtrained. Like it was good and it was bad. You know, like I had a decent boulder season. I ended up having like one good result. And then my lead season was kind of like, I think it was my worst one yet, but it happens for sure.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, so you're trying to, maybe try a new mix this year.
Definitely.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So going back to this climbing in the gym thing in the Northwest, what kind of kid were you? I mean, what was it that, maybe made that spark happen in terms of the gym?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it.
Right.
Yeah. I just enjoyed the movement. I enjoyed the process of learning. You know, it was like very quick turnover. You know, you'd like spend a few weeks in the gym, train, get stronger, get more technical, get better. And like just watching that process unfold so quickly was like a cool experience. And I think it was the first time I had like gotten to see my own effort transform into something. So it was like addicting for me.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like the first time that you're seeing progress on your own sort of merits.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the community, and, you know, I made some good friends pretty early on, and I was like lucky enough to, join the vertical world climbing team in Seattle, which is like one of the sickest programs I think in the country. And, you know, there's like good mentorship through there, and yeah, I've made like my best friends through there. So it's cool.
So what do you think special about that program?
I mean, at the time, and I think now, it's just like the family environment for sure. We were a family. It was cool. And just the mentorship aspect, and, you know, having older kids that were like stronger and more experienced to look up to, and then becoming that person for younger kids as I grew older. And it was cool. And good training on top of that too. It's like good vibes.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is sort of cliche, but was it the kind of program that quote unquote kept you out of trouble?
I mean, yeah, for sure. Definitely. It was an investment, right? Like there's an investment. It was a lot of hours in the gym every week. So it would have been hard to get into too much trouble.
I've sort of like kind of danced around this question with other people who were in kind of a similar thing of, you know, getting into it super young and then, you know, hours and hours in the gym. Has anything ever struck you as sort of negative in that aspect, or could you point to it sort of as far as your experience always being positive? You know, it makes me wonder if like it ever got too intense for somebody at that age, or, you know, if it felt like you missed out on something else.
I mean, for me, it was like definitely negative at times, but it's also all self-inflicted. So I only look at it as being a positive experience,
right.
You know? Like,
well, what do you mean by negative at times?
I don't know. There's always been, at least for myself, like a certain side of like neurosis almost to training and to like putting that much effort into one singular task. And, you know, it puts you in a weird headspace sometimes, but it's also just been the most like positive influence on my life. So
right.
It's cool.
Do you think that the vertical world program, this program that you're in, sort of had mechanisms to deal with that for you and for kids that were like fully maybe going overboard? And what were they? Like, what do you think helps with that?
You know, even still, my coach, Tyson Chaney from VW is like, he was my coach and then a mentor. And now he's like one of my best friends. We like talk on the phone all the time. So it's like, I think just that community aspect and that family aspect is like what was so cool about it for me, because it was like there was always, you know, there's someone there for sure. So it was cool. Yeah, I think just having the outlet and the fact that we were all climbers, you know, core climbers, and like we're all trying to do the same things for the same reasons. It was like having that community was like the coolest part about it.
When did you start going to overseas and stuff like that for competitions?
15.
Okay. Yeah. And that was with the team?
No, so the way it works is you'll compete in the domestic competitions, and then if you're top 4 in the domestic competitions, you make the U.S. team, and then that U.S. team travels as a group to the international competitions. And so when I was 15, I made my first Youth Worlds, and it was like a pretty life-changing experience for me, for sure, because I just thought it was like the dopest thing ever. It was cool.
Well, I mean, had you traveled overseas before, or you traveled Europe before? Yeah,
that was it. So that was my first, just my first way of experiencing travel, and it was cool, and it definitely stuck with me. Like, I just traveled with my grandpa, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just me and my grandpa went over for 3 weeks, and we hung out in Italy a little bit, hung out in Austria for a while. That's where the comp was, and just like cruised. It was sweet.
Yeah, I mean, you said you used the word life changing, so I'm gonna like get into it. Can you sort of expand on that? Like your typical, well, maybe a typical teenager, maybe not. I mean, not typical in the sense that you're in this climbing team, but talk about a little bit about like what that meant when you said it changed your life, if travel, the competitions, things like that.
I mean, it was just like from that point on, I knew that I kind of just thought it was the coolest thing ever, you know? I thought travel was awesome, like experiencing new places. But then just getting the opportunity to see, you know, the strongest kids from all over the world, like going to one place just to compete together was like cool, you know? And I didn't see myself as being like, you know, super, super elite level at that point. Like I had some success for sure, but like, you know, I looked at those top dudes and chicks and I was like, wow, like that's impressive. Like those are some skills. So I think it just kind of gave me some perspective on what was out there.
So what was your, like success rate early on in the World Cup?
Yeah, well, damn. Yeah, my first one is kind of funny. I actually competed just for speed climbing. Cause I don't know. I was like, happened to be kind of good at speed climbing, and it was the first year that they had the like official speed route. And so no one had really like trained on it. Right. And it was all new for all of us. And so I ended up doing okay at the national, and I got 4th and made the team. And I don't even think I was in the final for lead. So I get this invite for speed only, and it's not really my thing, right? Like I've been training lead climbing since I was super young. Like that was what I was invested in, but I figured it was just going to be like a cool way to experience the competition. Sure. So I went for
it. I'm going. I'll do speed, whatever. Yeah. I get to go.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm going. Right. Like, so I went, and it didn't go well. but I got to see sport climbing, you know, on that stage, and got to experience it. It was cool. I'm trying to think like what my time was, because, you know, like nowadays on that route, right, you're going like fast. If you're good, it's like 5 seconds, right? It's crazy. I think I was like 14 seconds or something. Like, pretty slow, but whatever.
So that was kind of the first year they standardized it, right? That route and stuff that I just found out about literally like last year, as this whole Olympic thing's been happening.
Oh, shit, okay.
And like the layman has been finding out about this, the layman American anyway, and has been finding out about this speed climbing thing that I didn't really know anything about. And the fact that I actually had always assumed it was just different routes, and then this whole standardized route thing was that it's all the same hole too. It's like really weird as well.
Yeah, it's a whole other world, man. Yeah. For sure.
So talk about your returns as you were able to get into these other categories, I hope.
Yeah,
right?
well,
I mean, we're not sitting here talking about you as a speed climbing like specialist.
Yeah, no, that's my career, man. That's the legacy. I mean, that was just kind of like the catalyst at the time.
Right.
Just to see that competition. That gave me like the fire kind of to really push it the next year. And I ended up making the team for lead from then on to the end of my youth climbing career. and that's kind of what like really got things going. Like my first year for lead was, that following year we went to Singapore, and I was just psyched to be there, like that was enough for me. But then I ended up being like pretty successful, made it through the semifinal, and that was crazy. And then ended up making it through the final, and I was like, well, fuck, this is really a thing. Like, cool, I can do this. And I don't remember what place I got, but not super high, but I was in the final. Like that's all we really try to do this for, It's like, that's the experience. So yeah, it was cool.
So it's like a series of kind of being rewarded with, it sounds like you've been surprised a little bit by like, oh, here I am. I'm making it through these finals, or I'm really good at this. And that keeps spurring you on. Is that sort of like the way it's been working? Or was it more like self-conscious than that in terms of like a strategy?
I don't know. At that time, there was very little expectation, I think.
Sure.
So it was just a surprise every time.
I mean, I've seen both paths.
Yeah.
I've seen climbers, not just comp or whatever, who are like, I'm going to be great, and this is going to happen to me, and this is how I'm going to do this. And then I've definitely seen the path of like, I really like doing this, and I keep kind of winning, and here I am again, and here I'm again. But at some point, I would assume, and maybe I'm assuming wrong, but I would assume that you did finally go like, oh yeah, this is like, I need to like bear down and stop just having a good time, or stop just like, edging into the edge here so I can get to go to these things. Can you talk about any sort of transformation with that?
No, yeah, I mean, like, I think I was always kind of hammering. Like, I definitely put a pretty ridiculous number of hours in. And I like, attribute my success now to those early years for sure. But at the time, it was all so new to me that it was just all for the experience, and it was like, it was pretty easy, and it was cool because like those expectations weren't there. Like I knew I'd put the work in, and I knew I felt strong, and I knew that there's like a possibility to be successful, but I wasn't necessarily like, I'm gonna make the final and then I'm gonna podium or whatever it may be. It was just like a cool potential outcome.
Yeah, but do you see what I'm talking about with there's some people who are like sitting in isolation who are like, I am going to win this. Like, and it's really like an approach, and they quiet any sort of doubts, and that's their method. It sounds like you have like a little bit different method than that.
Yeah, I mean that's such a tough thing to delve into because I have a lot of methods.
That's why we're here, buddy.
There's just been
at the end of this, you're actually going to be a better climber than before you sat in that chair.
I'm going to listen in and be like, whoa, damn, there's some good bits in there. Damn, that guy's smart. Fuck. Like it's really transformed from competition to competition.
That's what I'm talking about.
From, like as my career went on and as I started seeing more success, I think, more expectations started to come into it. And that's when the mentality actually, I think, really starts to get difficult. Cause when it's all fresh, it's easy, it's just like, you're just excited to be there. And it's like kind of easy to perform in a sense because the pressure's off, like just being there's enough. Once that's not enough anymore, like, and the novelty of that wears off, I think that's when like it starts getting hard for sure. So yeah, I think those early years, it was really just exciting to be there. And then, a few years in, I started to think, well, I could really be successful at this. And that's when those like mental battles started to kind of come into it. But for me, like, especially then too, is just all about trusting the training and trusting the process and, knowing that I put the time in and it shuffles out how it shuffles out. So
all sports and all sports psychology talks about this, what we're talking about. Like, you can be on paper or whatever the strongest person alive, but there's this other half to it. How much time do you think you spend, or do you spend any time with mental training, or do your coaches layer that on as well in terms of dealing with this game that goes on inside of your head?
Yeah, It's been such a weird process for me personally, because I've gone through like so many different phases and, you know, just waves of how I feel about it. But I think initially there wasn't really that much of a focus in some ways, but I think I had less information, so it was kind of easier for there to be a little bit less focus on it. And, you know, now it's something that I think about quite a bit, and I look at like the highest level, and it requires just this like crazy amount of mental strength that it's like what makes the difference. Like, especially this last season has been crazy. Like, I'm looking at guys winning World Cups and then the next comp getting, you know, 40th place or 30th place and not even making it out of the qualifier. And the only difference is like that mental aspect, or one boulder going bad, or whatever it may be. But it's a funny process, man. I don't even, as you can tell, it's like hard for me to even talk about it kind of in some ways.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, sorry, I probably like told you there may be two outcomes. You'll either be a better climber, or I'm going to completely fuck you.
Yeah, you're just going to mind fuck me, man.
It's going to take you 6 months to get over your Enormocast interview.
Right, dude. I'm just going to be recovering. Like, I'll be holed up in my apartment for the next 6 months. You won't hear from me.
Leaving me voicemails threatening me.
Yeah.
You ruined my career.
Yeah.
I don't even know who you are. Tyler just told me to do this interview, and now I'm screwed.
No. I think what I will say is early on, it was a lot easier for me to just like put my trust in my coach, actually, and I really just did whatever he told me to do because it just worked, you know. And I was less knowledgeable, and so it was like the easiest way to learn all those things. And then you like become a little more free thinking. You start having to like find your own way through it. And that's when it started to get interesting. You know, there's some comps that, I mean, this is fucked up, but I remember we had this one Pan American Championships when I was like 17, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's right before the final, and I go up to my coach, and I just told him, I was like, I'm going to win this one. And he's like, dude, that's kind of fucked up. Like, what? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And then, like, sure enough, I won it. And it was like, I was so able to just be like wholly 100% confident and find success through those means. And then I look at, you know, another comp, like just 1 year, 2 years later, I competed at the lead national championships, and I'm sitting in ISA before the final, and you know, my coach happens to be in there with me, and I'm telling him like, dude, I have not felt this shitty in ages. Like every other training session for the last 2 months before this, I felt better. And he's like, no, it's all in your head, man. It's all in your head. I'm like, it's not, dude. I don't know. Like, this is not good. It's not going. I'm not feeling it. And yet I was still able to like find, you know, success through like a totally different mental place. So it's like, it's a side of it that I haven't conquered by any means.
Right.
I'd love to. I'm getting closer.
Yeah, no, we have like a half hour left. We'll get there at the end of this.
All right,
so just bear with me, dude.
Cool. Cool.
All right, let's switch gears then and talk a little bit about outdoor climbing. The one thing in my research, air quotes, podcast air quotes,
3 minutes,
was realization.
Yeah.
Right, and repeating that. So let's talk a little bit about the inspiration to put the time in on that route and what it took, because it sounds like that was a pretty successful foray into really hard rock climbing as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was just always a dream route for me.
Why is that?
It's just like legendary, you know, that footage of Chris on it way back in the day was just legendary. So
it's funny that you say that, and I know it's true that the footage of Chris Sharma way back in the day, but you have to. But it's cool because he is now this icon for this whole generation who are like your age.
Yeah, you
know, when of course in my climbing career he was the kid. Yeah, you know, he was the phenom kid. That was like, where did he come from?
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, continue. It's just wild to hear like, oh yeah, he's like this icon for these guys who are like 20 and 25 now or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's got like kids and stuff now.
Yeah. Might as well give it up.
It's over. No, I don't know. I saw that footage, and I've seen the route before, and Ceuse was the first spot I spent a long time climbing at internationally, and so it kind of just had this special place for me. And it was like the route that I'd go and look at every day, but I wasn't strong enough by any means. I didn't even try it because it was like way before I was there physically. Yeah, it was just mid World Cup season, and me and my buddy were looking for a place to go climb for a week or two because we had a little bit of time. We thought, shit, like Ceuse is close. Let's go. It's gonna be awesome. So we made it happen, and we spent like about 2 weeks out there and ended up doing it up. So it was cool. Yeah. I don't know, man.
I mean, look. It's taken most of I think all of the other people who have done it, a serious, even multi-year projecting. I think like multiple trips.
Yeah.
I don't know all the Europeans that have done it. How many people have done it?
Should we look it up?
It's like, in my estimation, I mean, I don't know everybody who's done it, but at least the stuff that's been broadcast, it's taken people a long time to do that route. And from its beginning, I don't know if you know the history of its beginning, but the guy who bolted it tried it over and over again, piling the rocks up.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Actually, didn't Profit?
Really?
I think Profit bolted it.
Then I don't even know my history. Shit.
I don't know either, though.
No, I mean,
what does it say? All right, we're going to look up some stuff about Biographie, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, it's going to be just sick. Do it.
Okay, so we're back. We have our biography / realization history down. Jean-Christophe Lafayette, I don't know how to pronounce it. I think you pronounce the L's, bolted the climb. Before he could do it, was subsequently killed on Makalu in Nepal. And that's when it was kind of became this open project. Eventually, Arnaud Petit did the first ascent of the lower part. And I think Chris was the first free ascent of the extension, hence the renaming it to realization.
Yeah, which apparently isn't chill. It's not what you do.
No. Yeah. The French don't call it realization anymore. Yeah. You probably know that from being there. It's Biographie.
I don't even know what to call it, man.
Right.
I don't care, I guess. But.
You don't care. But had you ever tried it before you got on it, those 2 weeks?
Yeah, I tried it for like 2 days.
Okay.
The year before that.
Okay. Came back, and how long did it take you to do it then?
Like 6-7 days, something like that.
I mean, that still has to be one of the quickest turnarounds in terms of getting on it.
Quick ones, because you got Megas who just
like
shit on it. Yeah, and then you have Adam who also just shit on it. But besides that, for the most part, it's taken people a little while, I think.
Just, you know how many French people are going to be pissed about you saying people shit on Biographie?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I have a big listenership over there, so.
Pooped on it.
Yeah. So what was that experience like? I mean, did you just be like, oh yeah, that's cool, I just tick this thing? Or was it meaningful for you to send, what is it, 15B?
15A,
yeah.
No, it was super meaningful. It was weird. It was like one of the first times that I've stood underneath a rock climb and just like felt this presence. Mm-hmm. Like so many legendary people have climbed on that thing. And so just like standing underneath it and like looking up is like pretty crazy experience. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was like the hardest part about sending it. It wasn't even physically being able to do it. It was like just adding myself to that group of people, I guess, or something like that. And I mean, it was my first 9A plus, so just the fact it was a first of the grade for me, and I skipped 9A too. So actually, I jumped from AC plus to 9A plus. So it seemed like kind of ridiculous for a lot of reasons.
Right. Yeah. So I it's like another part of the theme of like, well, I'll see what happens. I'll check this out, and then being successful. You know, it seems like it kind of works for you, this idea.
Yeah, I guess it has so far. I'm still toying with it, but
you run out of luck soon. Has there been other climbs that have, have felt that way for you since?
No, I'm looking for it actually. Still, something that has that same importance for me, because that was a cool experience for sure, and like I was pretty elated to do it, and it lasted a while for sure. It was like a trippy experience. You like finish the bulk of the crux, and then you have like another like 30 feet of head wall or something, and it's like 12 plus climbing. But it was a weird 30 feet of climbing for sure. It's just rattling, so stressed, like, oh my God, don't blow it now, like that'd be so tragic. But it was cool. Like clipping the chains was super strange. It didn't feel real at the time,
Yeah, I mean, it's, as far as like sport climbs are concerned, it's definitely like one of the more storied and kind of has the weight of what you expect from like some of these, the nose on El Cap. I mean, someone's going to just like spit their beer out hearing me say that, but in terms of sport climbing, it's like that. It's got this just like this history that we just went through that's even deeper than you thought when you were there. I mean, maybe that was, it's a revered climb. And I've always wondered though, when you're on a route like that, Ceuse is in the season is a crowded cliff, and there's lots of really good climbers. It's like you can be up there with some of the best in the world any given season when it's good. Is it one of these things where people know that, Sean's over there trying realization? I mean, does it come with like audiences and sort of like, oh, there he is, he's going to try it today, or I think he's going to do it today? Does that stuff go along with those routes? Because it never goes along with the routes I do. I'm mostly in the way of someone's warm-up.
Shit, all right.
And any sort of audience is just people like tapping their foot, waiting for me to get down so they can warm up. But yeah, what's the scene like?
I did it in the summer, so it was pretty crowded. I think the day I did it was during the week.
Right.
So there's less people, which was cool. I think I perform a little better like that. Right. But yeah, sometimes there'd be...
That's funny, a comp climber is like, I don't like a crowd.
Yeah, it's true, man. No, I do, like, in some atmospheres. All
right, I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, yeah, that's a whole nother, like... You're just giving me all these topics that I can't even fucking talk about.
Okay. Anyway, so back to my questions. Yeah.
Yeah, so, there's a little less of a crowd. It was cool. It was like actually really empty when I did it. And it was like just my friends were there.
Did you really do it?
Yeah, there's footage of it. I got it.
All right, cool. All right.
It's not uncut of the whole thing, so I guess you don't really know, but wink.
Right.
Yeah, there was definitely a crowd some days though. And that's always like a funny aspect of it. But I get it, whenever I'm at the crag and I watch, someone strong trying something hard, I of course I love to watch. Everyone does, and especially Ceuse, like that crag. I think a lot of people climb a little bit earlier in the day sometimes, and maybe not when the conditions are as good. Then all of a sudden it gets prime, and like a bunch of people are done climbing already, and just kind of like hanging out and hanging around, and so you're climbing and they're just all like chilling.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but
yeah, because that cliff gets breezy, if I recall. That can help a lot, and then the sun moves the aspects in terms of which walls you're climbing on which part of the day.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite crags just for the experience of staying there. You hang out at the campground all morning, just chill, eat breakfast, eat a late breakfast, read a book, fuck around, do whatever.
It's very European.
Very European, yeah, definitely. Have a baguette.
Sounds more Spanish though.
Have a baguette or something, I don't know. And then, God. And then you start hiking up mid-afternoon, pretty late, in the sun, and it's hot always. It's so hot, and that hike is a little heinous, but it's cool. It's just part of the experience, right? Like you're just cruising, you get in your headspace, put your headphones in and just hike. And then you get up to the top and chill in the sun for a little bit. And all of a sudden the sun's back behind the wall. It gets shady, it gets breezy. And then you're climbing till 8 o'clock in the evening. Same thing every day. It's awesome. Right. Cool lifestyle.
So, we were talking earlier, about, these successes you had like in the comp world fed you like, oh, I can do this. I can make it here. And oh, look at that. I'm doing well with this thing. So anyway, you get these successes. Like, do you feel like you have a sense of your potential? I mean, have you begun to tap it? Do you think there's what do you think the future holds in terms of this hard outdoor climbing? I
mean, now I'm starting to really get psyched on trying to maybe start pursuing my own vision a little bit. And I'd love to like bolt some things. Never bolted a route. So I feel like I got to do that sooner rather than later.
Right.
But yeah, I'd love to put up my own vision a little bit and get some first ascents and just climb on like more quality stone.
Have you got an idea of sort of a canvas on which to do this? Cause it can be tricky, like finding something that's worthy and turns out to be hard and all those sorts of things. Have you got an idea of that?
No, I mean, yeah, I've seen some pictures and I have some ideas, but I don't know what the line is going to be yet. So, yeah, part of the process.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad to hear it because it's like, if you really want to, I mean, repeating hard routes is great and fine, but like, we just went down the history of Biographie. It's like, you were number 13, there's been 16, like the vision or the real impact has to be, I think, in putting up something new that's difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I figure that's always what I have thought was cool. So it's kind of why I want to do it. I used to watch all the footage of all the first ascents from the boys a few years ago. And it was like so cool. So that was just like, I don't know. I've always had it in my head as that being like, that's the pinnacle to me.
You got any sort of mentor in that realm?
I don't know, like not like specifically a mentor, but recently I've been trying to climb with like as many of those guys as I can. Like I was lucky enough to climb with D Woods a little bit the last few months and Jimmy a little bit, and just trying to make it happen and like see their vision. And I mean, they're so strong, it's like crazy, and they have like a process. So it's really cool to like just get to witness, essentially.
Right. All right, let's bring it back around to comp climbing.
Full circle.
Yeah, well, just because, I just see like, I asked you about like the split, kind of split personality, but also split time. And, we just talked about a person, that wants to just fully get into, new routing. As you, I'm sure, know by now, it's like that's like industrial work. It has nothing to do with training. It has nothing to do with climbing, actually, until you get it sorted out. And yet, you're still in the comp scene. You're still someone who wants to achieve in both places, and it's something that I guess you need to reconcile at some point. But where does like right now, all the talk and competition, World Cups, everything else is leading up to the Olympics. Does that sort of fit in your purview? This idea of 2020 Olympics?
Yeah, this year the main focus of the comps for most people, I think, is the Olympics. Or not most, but a lot of people. So we're like seeing a lot of people doing it differently, including myself. Like I started doing speed World Cups, which is like a totally new thing for me. I'm doing a lot of the Boulder Cups and a lot of the Lead Cups. So I'm kind of like doing all the things that it takes to make it to the Olympics, but it's so gnarly. Like the field is savage. It's tough. It's like a pretty unrealistic goal in a lot of ways for everyone. Like even the strongest dudes like could not make it. So the focus is there, but I don't think it's like 100% because I find that unrealistic. And at the end of the day, I just see it as another competition for the most part, right? Like, especially this year, if we've learned anything, it's that on any given day, like anything could happen. You could win, you could not make the final. You could not make the semifinal. It's just like so turbulent. So I try to not put like too much weight on it.
Right.
Because I just don't feel like it deserves it. Like in the sense that it's like point in history and going to be like awesome to see and like progress for the sport and all these things. It's dope. But in terms of like purity of competition, it's like kind of whatever to me.
Right. I mean, it's like a lot of at least North American climbers and European climbers, frankly, has the format like turned you off?
Yeah, I mean, I know it turns me off for sure, but I don't try to be too worried about it.
Right.
It was our only option.
I mean, your beginnings were in speed climbing. Like,
yeah.
You don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah. I got that part on lock. It's everything else that is hard for me. Yeah, I think people have mixed views. People definitely have mixed views. I think a lot of people don't like the format, but are excited about it just for, what it represents. And I think that, I kind of fit into that boat where the format seems pretty far removed from climbing as I've ever known it. But it's also, a good way to bring the sport to some people who would have never seen it. And it's happening one way or the other. So
right.
you're either going to be a part of it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
How long do you sort of see your competition career lasting? Have you mapped it out at all, or is it just something you'll keep doing while you're successful or while you're having fun?
If you talk to my coach, he'd tell you how many times I've tried to quit on him.
You should have had your coach on.
Dude, it would have been way more entertaining, especially if he was sitting right there and I was also right here. It would have been awesome. I am fucking addicted to it is the problem.
Right.
And I really enjoy it. And there's aspects of it that I think are awesome. But also,
so what's the problem?
It's a time thing,
right.
It's like you only have so much energy. And yeah, I love climbing outside too, and I love pursuing that side of things. So yeah, just finding that balance is like been the struggle, So I've had phases where I was like, I never want to compete again. And then I realized that was kind of bullshit. And, 2 weeks later, I'm like training again.
Right.
For comps. Yeah, I don't know. It could be a while. It probably will be a while.
Right.
In some capacity. I think I'm a competitor
right.
at the end of the day, and I enjoy competition. It's always going to be there in some capacity. But I don't know if I'll always be doing like the full World Cup circuit.
So, I mean, I'm going to guess something that your coach probably tells you. I mean, competition climbing is starting to resemble other competitive sports. And one of the things that I've always commented on is how, talking to Will Gadd earlier, he was in the era where he was like an older climber. And when climbing competitions were 20-some-year-old people. And it was Chris Sharma as like a teenager that came in and started kicking their asses that heralded this, like the young people are going to take over the sport, just like gymnastics or whatever else. And so I feel like, there is a window of opportunity to be a great competitive climber. And in my mind, you're like right in the middle of it. And the window to be a great outdoor climber, at least as proven by history, is much wider. In fact, I think a lot of these guys get better a little bit later in their 20s when the experience and the fitness sort of come together. Is that something that your coach tells you, or am I way off base?
No, I mean... Yeah.
Or do you tell yourself?
No, I mean, I tell myself that probably. Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, I've heard that from a few voices for sure. Yeah.
So get your act together, man.
Yeah, get my act together. I don't know. Yeah, I've been trying, man. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I think I've always been very passion based, and I'm always just trying to follow wherever I'm psyched. And a lot of times I am really psyched on comps, and it's pretty easy for me to push it. And when I'm a little less psyched, I'm kind of okay with that too.
I mean, but isn't that discipline?
I think there's so many outlets. Climbing's whatever you want it to be.
Right.
That's what's cool about it. It's not like I ever just stopped training, The work's always going in one way or another. But the ways that it's released is different, depending on the year and depending on where I'm at. So, yeah, I was pretty full on in the comps for a lot of years. Mm-hmm. And then I took a year off, and then I was full on for some time. And, that process I think has been healthy for sure.
Right.
it's definitely important to have that discipline, but I also think it's important to just follow the passion. Like, we're all climbers. I think that's why we do it, is the passion. And I see people who get burnt out just by overly disciplining themselves and pushing through, and maybe it wasn't the time for them. And people get burnt out for a long time that way.
Right.
You know, years
forever.
and years and years. Yeah, or forever.
Yeah, forever. Yeah, it's pretty common too.
Yeah, and I'm not into that. So
right.
I'm a lifelong climber for sure. So I think just like going through those waves of the outlet changing a little bit is like, it's just part of it for me.
Coming back to actually the beginning of the interview, you're a professional now. Right. And that is something that you've chosen. And I think a lot of people can think of sponsorship or whatever you want to call it, being a professional climber, as being very performance based. Mm-hmm. There's this image that, like, you know, you got to keep posting numbers because that's what we're used to in most other sports. You know, there's this quantifiable way to see how good you are because it's, you know, every game is a test. If you can't perform, you're gone. I don't think that's the way it is in climbing, actually. So I kind of, as you're questing around for the outdoor stuff, for the competition stuff, as a professional, what do you think you sort of bring to the table, and why have you chosen this path of maybe making this a career, at least for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said for just trying to articulate your vision to other people. And I think my goal as a professional is just to do that as authentically as I can, and in the way that I envisioned it years ago, and, you know, I imagined what it meant to be. And nowadays, I think part of that is just being like super honest about it, you know? And I try to really say how I feel about certain things. And I think that's the most important thing. And it's actually like something that I don't see that much, like, in a lot of climbers right now. Like, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus per se, but like, I look at Instagram and like, it's like the most watered down thing to me right now. And it's like super noisy, and there's like not really a lot of content a lot of the time. And like, I find that kind of frustrating, because what I'm interested in when I follow somebody, and, you know, when I'm interested in somebody, is like, what do you think about this? Like, you know, what's your feelings? How did you feel at the time during a competition or on a route, or like whatever it may be? And, you know, there's a few people who do, I think, a really good job of articulating that, but there's a lot of people who don't do that at all, and really just use it as like an outlet to like get likes or whatever. And mm-hmm. I've always found that super frustrating. So I just try to be as unfiltered as possible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think though, one of the big issues for me, having been in this sport for a long time, is the lack of detail too that are in social media, and so much of what's important about climbing is how we climbed something, you know, like sort of the details of how it got done, that can be sort of glossed over in social media a little bit. And and also the lack of emotion, or the lack of feeling that's in these little hits, these little like pictures, or you know, 3-line, you know, quotations from somebody else, which is a real common thing for climbers to put in their social media, like, you know, some philosophical quotation from literature or something like that. It doesn't tell me anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, what do you think your vision for, you know, being a professional athlete, how do you think it'll end up being different than what you're talking about? Like, are you thinking about different types of media? Are you thinking about, you know, being involved in a different way with your sponsors, things like that?
I mean, lately the biggest thing I've been thinking about is different forms of media, I think. I think Instagram is just totally burnt to me now in a lot of ways. But it's also like so necessary, and it's like how I receive a lot of my information. So I still use it. But yeah, trying to find new, interesting ways to release content that's, I don't know, maybe a little more meaningful and it has a little more weight is cool. And I'm still kind of in that discovery process of figuring out how to do that. And going back to comps versus climbing outdoors, like actually climbing outdoors is like way easier to create more meaningful content, I think, because comps is just I mean, it's tough. It's a tough scene to like create interesting content for. I don't want to watch it, and I spend my whole life doing it, you know. so that if that says anything, I don't know. but yeah. So that's the process for sure. I think. I want to see writing come back, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that for myself. I don't want to like write a whole bunch of stuff down and have nobody read it. So I don't really know the best way to venture into that, but you know, just finding creative ways to like release content, I think is going to be kind of like the future of being a professional athlete right now, because it's super watered down at the moment.
Right.
For sure.
So you feeling good about the coming season?
Yeah, I'm psyched, man. I'm super psyched. I've been training hard. Like the bouldering season is slowly wrapping up. We got 2 more events, and then it's lead season, which has always kind of been my thing. And so now I'm in like go mode. I'm hammering in the gym as much as I can. And, you know, I have about 2 months left to train, and then it's just firing and seeing what happens at these events. So I'm psyched for sure.
All right. Good luck, man.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right, folks, thanks for listening, and thanks to Sean for sitting down, even if it was under the strong suggestion of my friend Tyler up at Black Diamond. But I think we went some places, gave Sean some stuff to think about. He gave me some stuff to think about. And, you know, it's like the new face of young climbers. It's a little bit different than I expected. And now I, for one, am really interested to watch Sean mature in his climbing. He's got so much potential, so much talent. You know, he could be someone who really, really affects the sport in a big way. So we'll see what happens. And going and interviewing these comp climbers has been really interesting and educational for me. And it's a little off-piste for the Enormocast, so I expect a lot of you longtime listeners have learned some stuff as well. Going into this world a bit more. Can't hurt to learn a little bit more. And maybe, just maybe, we're bringing some new listeners on from that world. So, longtime listeners, newbies, whatever, remember you can support the Enormocast by going to enormocast.com, clicking on the Help Out tab, and putting a little effort in to help promote this thing, including donating to the cause if you wish. Also, you can go to the shop and buy t-shirts and a koozie and some hats, and that's about it. And stickers, always free. Send your address to chris@enormocast.com. Cool. The darkness, yes, it's upon us. But that doesn't mean climbing season's over. And of course, for you masochistic ice climbers, it's just beginning. And remember, when you get out there, of course, you're going to check your knots.
I like you, Betty.
It's Denny, sir.
Danny. I'm going to give you a little advice. There's a force in the universe that makes things happen. And all you have to do is get in touch with it. Stop thinking. Let things happen. And be the ball.
The teachers told me that's where it's at.